Hello, folks. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast brought to you by ugozi.com. In this podcast and at HireMyVA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And of course, that means your bank, the most important bank. Folks, I'm Dave Braun, and I'm on with my usual best buddy, partner in crime, Larry Broughton, and we're here to answer your questions and, of course, answer our own questions about team and business building and sometimes even life. Larry, tell me.
Hello, handsome Dave. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I had somebody tell me, yeah, I listened to all your episodes and yeah, handsome Dave.
Oh, really? It's sticking, right?
I know it's sticking. Yeah.
Yes. You got your haircut since I last saw you.
I did.
You are quite handsome.
I did. Well, thank you. Thank you. It feels better to have less weight up here.
Yeah.
Helps my neck, I guess.
All right. I think we got a part 2 here. If I remember correctly.
We do.
So, yeah.
Okay. This is part 2. This is episode 130 and 129 was part 1, but we're going to answer the same question, and which is normally what you do with a part 2, right, Larry? Is that the way it works?
The sequel, perhaps. Yes.
There you go. And normally, right, in movies, how often is the second part the best? Quite a bit. Anyway, okay. Here's the question.
All right.
How do I avoid burnout, and what do I do if I'm burned out, especially while still working?
Yeah. This has been on my mind. I guess it was last week, when we recorded part 1. It's been on my mind a lot lately, Dave, just for personal stuff. I mean, you know what's going on in my life, right? I've got all kinds of stuff, but like we did last time, Dave, I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are kind of jumping right into this one and they're not going to go back and listen to part 1. We encourage you to go back and listen to part 1, but I know some of you are not going to. You're going to be like Larry. And just because we've asked you to do it, you're going to say, screw that, I'm not going to do it. So I think first we had to, Dave, is maybe define what is burnout.
Yeah, really quickly, we can do that real quick.
So
we had it in the other episode, yeah.
I know, but some people aren't going to go look at that. So maybe I can do it in 2 or 3 sentences.
Sure.
But burnout is really just a form of exhaustion that is caused by just feeling absolutely swamped. And as a result, I guess it comes from an extreme and ongoing, and that's kind of one of the keys here, ongoing emotional and physical mental stress. You know, oftentimes, not always, oftentimes when we talk about burnout, it's related to our job, right? Yeah. But it creeps in when we're overwhelmed, when we're emotionally depleted, and we're just trying to deal with life's incessant demands. You know, that tends to be what burnout is. It's an emotional and physical and mental exhaustion.
And I think it's continuous, right? It's not to where every single, let me back up. So as entrepreneurs, we're going to have days when it's just going to suck and we want to quit and we want to roll over and pull the covers over our head. There's going to be days like that every now and then, but that's really, really got to be the exception. If it's not, then you're headed to burnout or you're there.
Yeah, that's why I tried in the beginning, like put emphasis on this, that it's the continuous feeling of just being swamped and overwhelmed, right? That's what leads to burnout. Because as you said, you're going to have days that are just going to suck, and that's things are coming at you from every different direction. That's not burnout. That's just a crappy day.
And in reality, it may not be that way, meaning you may not have a ton of stuff to do, but you feel it, right?
Sure.
That's the thing, feel it. Sure. And of course, we've talked about stress before, how stress can be good, the right kind of stress. Uh-huh. We need to have stress in our lives to grow in every area, especially physically and mentally, emotionally, spiritually. We need certain types of stress, but it needs to be for a period of time. That's why in professional sports, they have the extreme stress of the season and the postseason, but then they have the off season where they get to spend some time recovering.
Yeah. Should we remind people just of a couple of the ones that we talked about already, or just jump into it? It's up to you.
Maybe we can talk about maybe a couple of them that were really important to us.
Okay. Go ahead.
So maybe one of the first ones I think that really helps us both survive are the friendships and relationships, key ones in your life where you can feel like you're safe with other people. And we go and expand on that a lot in the previous episode, so listen to that. But I think that is really important.
Yeah, the couple for me is, I think we talked about in the last one, we're actually going to do a topic on this at some point soon, is actually consider therapy, but also journaling really helps. It helps put things in perspective. Because sometimes when we write things down, Dave, they're not as big and grandiose as we really think they are.
Yep.
Right? In our minds, in the moment. And also, I think getting some physical exercise is one of the things I've been really doing lately. Is actually getting out and getting some movement, getting some sun on me. But the physical movement seems to alleviate some of the stress too.
Oh, it does. It does.
But there's a whole list. I think we went into detail on 7 or 8 or 9 maybe in the previous episode.
Yeah, something like that. So let's go into some of the other ways, because we have a pretty darn big list of all the different things. And so let's get to those. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Okay. Well, maybe one of them, I think the next one we would talk about would be volunteering with an organization to serve others less fortunate than yourself.
I like that.
Yeah, some of the stuff that I do, and it's great to volunteer, and that's awesome. But what really helps reset your perspective, because sometimes burnout can be caused by we get a skewed perspective that it's all about us, and it's my issues, and it's my problems, and your world starts becoming all around you, as opposed to getting outside of yourself, and especially to working with people that are less fortunate than you.
Yeah, it's that perspective thing, right? Like, I really don't have it that bad. You hear sometimes people talk about, oh, that's a first world problem when they're making fun of themselves, right? So I think that's a really good one. And I use this reminder oftentimes. And I don't, honestly, folks, don't jump on me, because I don't know who really needs to get credit for this saying, but I've heard Mother Teresa oftentimes accredited for it, or attributed for it, that there is no higher calling than serving others. But this is where the volunteering comes in.
Yeah. And I think it's important to volunteer. There's going to be times when you're going to recognize that you are in a better place than other people from, maybe all kinds of different perspectives, but you can recognize it. But if you're actually serving those people, I think that will really help you in burnout. So let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff that I do, with the jails going in, when I see some of the guys.
Wait. Don't just brush over that, because some people don't know.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I do is on occasion go into some of the local jails and do Protestant services, do like a little sermon, all that kind of stuff, and lead them in singing, which is so anyway, just going into a place like that is like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful for the great decisions I've made in life. They've never been perfect, of course, and I have my own problems, but holy smokes, it's nothing compared to those guys.
One decision away could have you there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just so thankful that I made some great decisions. So Larry, let me contrast that with something else.
Sure.
That just happened this last week at church. Is that actually it was the week before, sitting, we like to sit in front, Cheryl and me, and then there was an open space in the first row in front of us, and I think there were 3 people in wheelchairs, electric wheelchairs that rolled up, and they were, worshiping and praising.
Gang activity? A gang of wheelchair people?
Yeah, I guess. But no, they were there and they were praising, and it made me feel grateful and thankful how, I'm so physically healthy. But that in and of itself, that made me feel fortunate and help, but it didn't do anything for burnout. It's not very long lasting. That's why it's important to volunteer somewhere on a regular basis. It's not like a one-time thing, and which is good, but it's better to do it continually, like what you guys have done in the past, pre-pandemic, at Broughton Hotels with, the sandwiches and the lunches that you guys would do once a month. That was amazing.
Yeah. So what Dave's talking about is that we would stop everything that we're doing in the home office, no matter whether we had clients there or not. And if clients were there, they'd have to come in and help us. We'd make about 200 sack lunches
Mhm.
for an area um, teen shelter and homeless shelter program.
Yeah.
And that was fun. It built a sense of camaraderie, but we're also serving the community at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. So those things really, really help, because if you do those on a regular basis, it can help you really reset your perspective and say, it is, this life is not all about me, and it will help you to maybe get over the hump a little bit of your burnout.
Well, it's interesting because it does bring up, and maybe we just need to get a little bit more specific on this. You and I have both alluded to it, but I do believe that by getting in touch with our spiritual side and maybe recognizing that maybe, just maybe, it's not an accident that we're here and pursuing that. Even if you don't come up with a solid formal sense of belief about it, the pursuit of a spiritual thing really grounds a lot of people, which is a little bit nutty. And that's how I kind of came to, the faith system that I have was just through searching, you know. And so getting intentional about that. And what I have found that through that morning meditation and reading and setting my intentions for the day, it takes the anxiety away. One of the things I like to remind folks is that gratitude and anxiety can't live in the same space at the same time, right? And so that spiritual quest, just asking the questions, why am I here? What am I doing? Like, is this really what I'm supposed to be here? Is there something that's bigger than me out there? I think that really brings peace and understanding for a lot of people. And one of the conversations, I just feel the in my gut to say it. One of the conversations you and I and our group last week started talking about is, psychedelics in a lot of religious, circles over, the millennia. It's very interesting just to pursue the knowledge from that, the pursuit of, asking. I'm just a big one, like asking questions when it comes to the spiritual stuff. So I am no theologian, by the way, and everything I say may be wrong. But I know that in my deepest seasons of burnout, Dave, you know this, that it's been this quest that has kind of kept me more grounded and put things in perspective.
Yeah, and it's kind of feeding something that really energizes you, that helps to refresh you mentally, helps to reset your perspective, is that learning about other things, because you're an avid researcher and reader and listener and all that. And Larry, you're able to synthesize a lot of information together pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, and share it with others. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, speaking of that, I think that lends to, one of the things that's so important to help you with burnout is to think about your strengths. This is one of the things we've talked about in several podcasts about, the Gallup Strengths Finder assessment, and, figuring out what your top 5 are, and hopefully all of them. But the idea then is to help you avoid burnout is figuring out what those are, but spend time, especially at the beginning of the day, feeding what those strengths are. So, for example, remember Keith Baldwin?
Hello.
You remember Keith Baldwin?
Of course.
So remember, he sent us these mugs. If you guys can't see this, you're listening. I've got a mug that shows my top 5 strengths: learner, analytical, intellection, relator, and discipline. So learner is my top strength. And a lot of people have that, which means if you want to help yourself avoid burnout, do something at the beginning of every day to learn something.
And conversely, try to stay away from those areas where it's not in your strength. That's where a lot of burnout in organizations and individuals comes from.
Yes.
Is that they're working outside their strengths. And you had mentioned the Gallup, it's now called the Clifton Strengths Finders.
Yeah.
But it's one of the reasons why you and I are such big avid believers in those types of assessments, including the Kolbe A index or the octogram, to identify If you are in a role where you're expected to be a pioneer or a visionary or a strategist, but you're more of an analytical type who's a high fact finder, but you're kind of
Oh,
forced.
that's me.
Yeah, but you're forced out there on the edge. It scares the hell out of you. And there's anxiety that comes in. Whereas somebody like me, I thrive on that. I like to be the guy that's on the edge of the building who's going to jump off, and I'll figure it out as I fall. I'll build the plane on the way down. So you need to understand yourself in these areas. And so imagine if you're the business owner or CEO of an organization, and you can take the pulse of your organization, realize that there's a lot of burnout in the organization. You might want to ask yourself, are my team members working in their strengths? And if it's you personally, you need to do a little bit of an assessment and say, okay, like maybe the 3-column exercise that we talk about often. And if you don't know what that is, put a note in the comments wherever you're listening to this podcast, and we'll get back to you. But identify, what am I doing on a daily basis that's sucking my lifeblood, right? And then you got to delete, delegate, defer, or do those things, right? So that, I think, is really important. Identify your strengths, work in your strengths as much as possible. Most surveys have shown that we spend about single digits of our day working in our strengths. Most of the time is spent working in areas that are outside our strengths. No wonder we feel burned out or frustrated.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Good one, David.
And that can actually be a very healing process. So in other words, maybe you, like me, if I have to spend a lot more time as a visionary, which is outside of my strengths, according to, during the normal week, if I can take, a Saturday or Sunday or another day off and not do that, that's very restorative.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've kind of alluded to this, Dave, about knowing yourself, right? It does take a little bit of really studying your navel. And my sense, Dave, is that you're not going to know this until you have lived life a little bit. And that is this: we got to know our breaking point. We've got to be able to see the little dot on the horizon of that train heading towards us, and then start taking course corrective action as soon as you see that dot on the horizon heading our way. If you don't recognize that train until it is on you, this is where hospitalization comes in. This is where physical and emotional and spiritual breakdown happens, is when we just don't recognize it. And that, frankly, Dave, just comes from bad experiences and maturity, being able to recognize it. I don't know anyone who can kind of, again, I'm not a theologian. I'm not an expert on some of this stuff. I'm just sharing with you my thoughts. It takes somebody who's really aware to know that they're approaching burnout if they've never been in there before, right? So you have to recognize the warning signs. I'm feeling anxious. I'm avoiding. I'm procrastinating. I'm snapping at my, love partners. I'm calling in sick to work. Those things are all warning signs that should help you identify what your breaking point is. Does that make sense?
And a companion to that is, for you to be aware of that, is what we talked about in the previous episode, is journaling. If you're starting to feel like, hey, I'm starting to hate my life or hate my job or whatever, it's time to be journaling and seeing, is this, a continual thing.
Yeah.
And like you said, Larry, it's good to do it before you reach that breaking point, because then you can maybe rationally do something about it. If you get into the hospital, what are you going to do about it? I mean, you're messed up for a long time.
Yeah. It's interesting, Dave, in that, like, the last few of these that we've talked about, including, identifying or get in touch with your spiritual side and knowing your breaking point, some of the kind of side topics we've talked about, kind of lead into this next one. If you're aware of that, then you can identify, like, what's your why? You hear this all the time. People have written books about this, right? In fact, we got part of my victory book that focuses on this. What's your vision? What's the mission for your business and for your life? Because those things should spur us on towards excellence. It should spur us on towards reaching our fullest potential. It should inspire us to do great things, right? And when you focus on that aspirational thing, you tend to accept, like, yeah, I'm going to have to get down. It's like okay, I want to get to 10% body fat and I want to weigh 245 pounds. That's not going to happen just by me, wishing upon a star. I'm going to have to get down and do the hard work. I'm going to have to do the push-ups. I'm going to have to get into the gym, right?
That's
But
right.
I've got to have that goal, right? And that's what your vision, your mission, your why is. And it really ought to be more than just the piles of cash that you want to be rolling in, on your bed. For me, it's about my children and building legacy, right? And making an impact on the world. It really needs to be aspirational. And when you have that kind of aspirational, lofty goal, you're willing to take a few more slings and arrows.
Yeah, that aspirational, lofty goal will help give you a little bit of energy
Yes,
as well,
great point.
right?
Yeah,
And there will be times when you say, okay, I know, I'm feeling a little bit burned out, but okay, I know I'm going to have to go through some of these if I'm going to be successful at it.
yeah.
And so you become a little bit more self-aware, like
Yeah.
we're talking about knowing your breaking point
Sure.
previously. Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
We talked about your why and your vision and mission, but something that may be a little bit, and that may sound airy fairy, and it's not, believe me. But here's maybe something a little bit more practical that we could do is shortening our work time some. All right. So in other words, it could be that you were just working way too many hours, and that maybe what you could do, make a little bit of a contract agreement with yourself or a pact with yourself that says, all right, I'm going to bust my butt for the first 3 or 4 hours of the day. I'm going to take the rest of the day off for 3 days a week or something like that. And then use that afternoon off to recharge yourself. And that's really, really important. You don't just take the afternoon off to potentially, Netflix a bunch of shows. It would be something that would help you to restore. And Larry, I know that you had a friend of yours that was doing something like this, not on a daily basis, but they were busting their butt for a few weeks every quarter. Remember that?
Yeah. So, well, there's two things I want to share. I'll do that one second. But the first one is I did have a business partner years ago who recognized before I did that I was approaching burnout. I was getting short. I was getting resentful, those types of things. And so he forced me. He said, dude, you have got to take at least 1 3-day weekend a month.
Yeah.
Just to get away. And I said, but I've got so much to do. And he said, well, and he did talk me into it after some kicking and screaming. You become more productive when you have some emotional margin in your life.
Yes.
Right. When you're burned out, you lose efficiency. You're not working at an optimal level. And so by taking that, like you said, that half day, whatever it is, you got to find something that works for you. Now, yes, I get that you may be in a business where you're in a season where you cannot take weekends off. I get that, or 2 days off in a row. I understand that. There are seasons. But as you said, Dave, taking a half day off once a week, most people can figure that out. And if you know that is the goal, you're going to sprint a little bit more. And that's what my friend, I'm going to use his name here, George Alonzo, who is a business broker. He owns a business brokerage. And I've shared the story a bunch of times where he takes 4 months off a year. Takes 1 month off a quarter. Okay.
That's right.
I remember him saying, I can sprint for 8 weeks knowing that I'm going to get 4 weeks off at the end of this.
Yeah.
Think about that, right? That's a pretty great goal. But here's the key. He didn't do that just the first day he opened the business. He had to build a team around him. He had to have some support stuff. He had to make sure he had a team that was working in their strengths about all the stuff that we were talking earlier.
Yeah.
Right. And so he and his bride every, quarter take a month off.
Wow.
How awesome would that be?
That would be amazing. But, to me, that requires a ton of discipline because there's always going to be that temptation after those 8 weeks. Oh, wow, I'm going to be off for 4 weeks. Well, let me just cut into that because there's this new project that I want to do.
No, he schedules it in the beginning of the year. They know when they're taking time off. I mean, obviously, if there are, marriages or deaths or those types of extreme things, they'll cut into it. But most things, it's sacrosanct. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Well, that's good. Man, that's that's a really good aspirational goal in and of itself.
Yeah.
To really make a difference, to really push, part of your time and then recover the rest of the time. That's really cool.
Well, another thing, Dave, is that if you can take this time off, like George does, that's a time where you can actually focus on trying new things, trying to really get good at something new. One of the things, like I've been riding horses for years, but I've never taken riding lessons. Right. And I've decided I want to become get really good at horseback riding. Right. And I've been thinking, all right, I keep postponing it. Okay. I thought, well, I'm going to do it during the pandemic. Right. But I'm not scheduling it. Right. And so by taking time off, it forces you to do that. Mm-hmm. Right. But find something that you really want to get good at, whether it's guitar playing or ukulele playing, or maybe it's a task in your business. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's something you've realized, hey, I've got an inclination towards this, but I've never really had an opportunity to get really good at it. Right. But Dave, to get really good at something, you're gonna have to suck at it for a while. And so it does take a little bit of humility in the beginning, and you have to celebrate the little victories or the little wins that you have along the way. Right. So get really good at something. And oftentimes entrepreneurs, leaders, high achievers have a hard time sucking at things. They want to do things that they're good at. But the folks I've seen who have had enduring success and who have grown big businesses and they still have joy in their life are those people who are willing to fail and start things new. Yeah. I just did a series of interviews for a new general manager for one of our hotels last week. And it was one of the things I was asking, like, when's the last time you learned something new? And for most of us, it's a difficult, like, oh my gosh, I can't remember when I tried something new. You, on the other hand, Dave, who's a learner, you're learning stuff new all the time.
Trying to, yeah.
So anyway.
That's good stuff.
I think that'll help people out by trying something new.
Hey, we've been at this for like 20 plus minutes. We still have a ways to go. Larry, you want to power through?
Let's do another one, and then maybe we can break it into part 3.
Okay, let's do that. So, related to that, getting really good at something, you may have to, if you're going to do that, or if you're going to journal, or you may have to do something like changing your physical working location.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Right. Maybe not every day, but on occasion. I've had some times, Larry, when you're working from home, I'm working from home. I've had some times when the power's been out for the day, and then I'll go somewhere else. It's amazing. Even if I've gone to a McDonald's and sat in there with a bunch of people around me, just going there, a different place, I have felt really, really productive. I was able to block everything out. Just that change of environment helps. Now, like for me personally, I've got 3 monitors, my MacBook Pro, and I got 2 on the side, and those help me to be productive. But mentally, sometimes just going somewhere else is going to really, really help.
Yeah, there's times for me where I've gone to the backyard. I've got a nice view out towards, you've seen it, Dave.
Yeah.
That has kind of inspired me at times. I had some work being done on my house about a month ago, and this is so silly, but I just went and I worked in my car. I parked my car in a nice place and was sitting out with a beautiful view. And, my car has that sun roof, so it felt like I was sitting out in the open space. But I had the power, I had the AC going, and working on my computer. I was shocked at how productive I felt. I really agree with that, Dave. I remember, and it's time for me to do it again. I remember it's kind of like I'm in the same space, but I did change my office around. I had my desk on the other wall for a while, and just changing that up made me feel like, well, I'm kind of in the new space. You got to trick your mind a little bit sometimes, right?
So. Yeah, and one of the things that I think is also important, because I've got several clients who have little kids.
Yeah.
And working from home with little kids is tough. Even that, with the demands on them and everything from them on you, interrupting you, you feel like you can't get done what you need to get done. gosh, even that is pretty hard, can lead to burnout. And so I've suggested a couple of them. Maybe you can arrange it so where you could go a couple days a week to a co-working space
Oh,
to
nice.
really concentrate.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, like you said, we've been going for a while. I know some people could sit here and listen for a whole hour, but I can think that we probably got at least 5 or 6 more. I've got a few in my mind. I'm sure you do as well. So why don't we wrap this one up and then come back with a part 3 on this? And I guess we're going to have to, if we've not published the other ones, it'll have to be part 1 of 3, part 2 of 3, and part 3 of 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks. Thanks for your patience, for staying with us. Hopefully you're finding some value out of this. But this burnout topic, Dave, I think is so critically important, because if you're feeling burned out in your professional life, I swear to God, those people that are in your personal life are recognize it as well. And you're not showing up to be the best love partner, the best parent, the best friend, or in your life. Because we cannot, like someone who lied to me early on in my life, somebody I looked to as a mentor, who said, you got to live your life in these compartments. That is not the long-term recipe for success.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it doesn't work.
All right. Well, this wrap up part 2 of 3 parts now.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us today, everyone. Remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom to help you avoid burnout. And of course, we're here to help you with our course and community and our white glove service, where we find a rock star VA for you. 3 things we'd love for you to do. And of course, we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so, either on your iPhone or your Android phone. Just get those episodes directly to you so you can join with us easily on a weekly basis. And then, of course, on YouTube, if you're watching us there, hit the little subscribe button and click on the bell next to it to get reminders. And then, of course, we'd love for you to give us a rating, 5-star. That'd be awesome. If there was 10-star, do a 10-star, but give us the max if you could. But leave a comment below this video, any comment. Tell us some ideas about how you've avoided burnout, or maybe when you were close, and some of the things that you did. That'll help the entire audience. And it'll also help us to get the word out. And then, of course, number 3 is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our white glove service. And remember, even without experience, or even if you've had bad experiences, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry, we've helped a lot of folks. We're continuing to help more and more, and we want to help you too. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yep. Folks, we love you. We're glad that you're going on this journey with us. Do yourself a favor, do the world a favor. Go do something significant today. God bless you. God keep you, and God hold you. We'll see you on the next one.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Later.